What's happening, guys? James Blonde here with MMOHuts.com with a quick weekly recap for MMO news and announcements for the week ending April 21st, 2014. And our first bit of news this week has to do with Swordsman Online from Perfect World Entertainment, showcasing a new teaser trailer revealing the 3 primary class trees in the game. In the new video, they reveal the Wu-Tang School, the Sun and Moon School, and the most recent House Tong, which is what the new trailer likes to show us. Unlike the other schools, House Tong relies on guns rather than blades, and according to the official site's lore, along with their firearms and throwing weapons, they like to use traps to keep enemies at a distance, making it that much more difficult to attack them at close range. Now, I've got to be honest, before this trailer, the game looked a lot like Age of Wushu, but with this new gunslinger type class here, kind of looks like a cross between Age of Wushu and Guns 2: The Second Duel, which isn't exactly a bad thing. In fact, I think I'm a little bit more interested in the game now. And speaking of interesting, Zombies, Monsters, Robots, or ZMR for short, put out a badass closed beta trailer this past week showing off the game's various game modes, the different weapon types, and the crazy AI you'll encounter, including some super huge raid bosses. From the looks of the trailer, anything goes. The gameplay itself seems really immersive, and there's a lot going on here, so I can't wait to see the various game modes in detail. And another cool thing is, closed beta for ZMR is starting up in little less than a month. Well, you know, it's only a matter of time before Elsword has more news, and that's the case for this past week. This time, we've got a new trailer that was released showing off Hamel's secret dungeon as an advancement in Chung's storyline where he faces the Temple of Trials to reunite with his fallen father. This particular dungeon is called the Temple of Trials, and with this update comes a total overhaul to the secret dungeon system in Elsword. Now, secret dungeons can only be entered if all of the surrounding dungeons are completed on very hard difficulty. Then players acquire a secret key to get in to play the secret dungeon on normal. In order to play in Hell mode, it'll require 2 secret keys. There are a lot more details on this change up with the secret dungeons as well as the Temple of Trials, so check out the news post from the link in the description below. Next up, World of Tanks has been teasing us with their new graphics, physics, and overall technology tweaks for a couple months now, but finally put them all together in Update 9.0. The new update includes a new game mode called Historical Battle, which is a scenario-based game mode that is set up like a reconstruction of famous World War II battles. I was kind of wondering when they put that in. Anyway, players can only use the tanks that fought in those particular battles, which should make the gameplay tactics a little bit more challenging. The graphics in the game got a huge boost. Now textures look a little bit more natural, and the details on the tanks are a lot more appealing. Not to mention there are much nicer visual effects improvements on gunfire. Tons of changes were made to 4 of the existing maps for better balancing, changing the strategy of gameplay, and of course they added a lot of new physics features they've been mentioning, such as tanks blowing into pieces, and buildings and walls crumbling to the ground. Lots of cool changes being made in this update for sure. On a very similar note, War Thunder launched Update 1.39 this past week, revealing several new features, including support for user-generated content, squadron battles, and the addition to even more planes, not to mention early access and the introduction to the main server with ground forces. The user-generated content introduced in this patch gives players access to special downloadable tools, which are the same that the developers use in order to create their own maps and planes. It's probably not an easy task, but really immersive for those who live for that kind of creativity and detail. And a quick check system ensures that newly created planes fit within the game's parameters before allowing players to use them in custom missions. This update also introduces the Battle of Kursk, replicated from the historical engagement from 1943 between the Soviets and German strategic offensive. This battle actually has players fighting in tanks alongside players in planes. Needless to say, there's some pretty exciting news for war games this week. Next up, it looks like verticality is a huge part of Crystal Tower introduced in Combat Arms EU from Nexon. Available on the 23rd, Crystal Tower doesn't seem like it has very many places for players to hide, and it's a medium-sized map ideal for snipers on the rooftops, picking off players in areas that are not so bulletproof. The bases of each team are in layers to prevent bottlenecking, and if the tower bridge is too heavily fortified, then you can always use the side bridges, but those are a lot more exposed. Last week, Blizzard launched Hearthstone on iPad, and as an added bonus for players picking up the game on iPad, you're able to earn a free pack of cards, even if you've already been playing on PC or Mac. The cool and appealing part of Hearthstone on iPad is that for some people, this game is a little bit more fun from a mobile standpoint. It's actually the reason why I have the game on my laptop and not at all on my desktop. Long lines in various places just got a lot more fun. In similar news, Hex Shards of Fate is pushing for its closed beta. The current target date for closed beta is April 23rd, unless some unforeseen issues causes a delay. The most recent patch in the game introduced some fixes to the Swiss-style tournaments, tightened up some of the UI elements, and introduced the Stash, a place where all your non-cards live, like treasure chests, booster packs, mercenaries, and a lot of other items. The game has had a huge success in Kickstarter and is probably anything and everything you could ever ask for in an ITCG. Worth checking out. Also, last week, Webzen has shared new information about the closed beta pre-registration for Archlord 2. Previously, we didn't have a date for the pre-registration, and, well, the date is now. Players can sign up for the closed beta test, and by pre-registering, players will automatically be entered in the closed beta lottery and get a chance to win a key to the closed beta, which is scheduled to begin in June. Check the link in the description below for more details on the sign-up process. Next up, Codebrush Games made an announcement last week that its multiplayer fighting arena game ArcheBlade is officially launching on April 24th on Steam. The game has been on Steam Early Access for quite some time now, since March of 2013, and in the past had some hard times. But with the game's official launch, the new customization system called Gear Up, which adds over 500 items, makes its way into the game, as well as moveset changes and a completely revamped training mode. Check out the news post at MMOHuts.com for more details. And finally, for our last bit of news, Neverwinter is preparing to launch its latest module, Curse of Icewind Dale, on May 13th. Finally, they've put together all of its primary features into one article. Some of the new highlights in the third module are 2 new opposing groups, the Tin Towners and the Arcane Brotherhood, each offering players different quest lines, a new PvE campaign where new quest lines and boons will be introduced, as well as the new open-world PvE quest called Heroic Encounters, which is designed to include over a dozen players at a time. Not to mention the flagged areas for PvP in the open-world fight for Black Ice, which has become a major resource within Icewind Dale. There's plenty more to know about the new module, so head over to the site post at MMOHuts.com. Anyway guys, that's about it for all the major MMO news and announcements for this week. If you haven't already, check out my PAX East coverage to get some insight and updates on games like Nosgoth, Dawngate, and Orcs Must Die Unchained. Otherwise, check the links in the description below or head over to MMOHuts.com/news for more details on this week's news topics. Feel free to discuss the news in the comments below or head over to MMOHuts.com/forums. Until next time guys, that's going to be it for me. I'm James Blonde. See you out there, gamers.